Welcome to the Pop Docs Podcast. My name is Joseph. I am a doctor in degree only.
And I'm Deni, and I'm a doctor in name only, and we're diagnosing the state of pop culture.
We are the Pop Docs, and our clinic is now open. Welcome to the Pop Docs Podcast. We are back with another podcast episode. And before we jump into it, where we will be talking all about trailers that have dropped. It's apparently trailer season. It's not just spring. Trailers abound for movies and TV. And we are going to jump into a whole host of them that had us interested, maybe perplexed, maybe slightly ambivalent. I guess we're going to find out. But before we get to trailer season, Deni, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm excited for the trailers. I'm excited for trailer season, more so than what spring usually brings, which is pollen, which is causing my eczema to flare. So,
and that's I thought you were already sneaking Bridgerton in there a little earlier than I had initially planned. Yeah,
I like it.
Yep.
Like it.
See, I know some things.
You may
about Bridgerton.
have watched it, but you know about the nicknames at least.
Okay, well, we have roughly 6 trailers to talk about.
Ooh.
Although, as we'll see, we can actually say 7 trailers. It's a little tease for one of the properties that we'll be talking about today. But jumping in, the first one I want to talk about that actually got me more excited than I anticipated it would, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I think AD 2024, I think is the subtitle. But Beetlejuice 2 released a very much a teaser trailer. Did not really give us any of the story. Just gave us some of the flashes, a lot of the images from the first one. The bridge is there. The little model town is there. Winona Ryder is there. Catherine O'Hara, I think, is who plays her mother. Wednesday Addams is there. Jenna Ortega. Several generations of that family. The Dietzes. And of course, at the very end, the juice is loose. Yeah, shows back up. Looking great after all this time, I think. Sounding great. Yep. We saw the guy that plays the pastor. You get a really brief glimpse of him in the trailer. He's got I gotta look his name. He's got such a cool name. Do you remember his real name? It's something like Burn Gorman or something to that effect. Yeah. He's always, well, not always. He's typically some kind of villain, usually a henchman of some kind in most of his movies. But he's been in a ton of movies recently. I really like him as an actor. I think he's really good. He was a good guy in the Pacific Rim movies. He was one of the scientists opposite Charlie Day, if I remember correctly. And he was good in that, I thought. But that was one movie where he got to play on the good side as opposed to being a bad guy. Did you find him? Did you find his name?
I'm trying to find it, but for some reason it is like avoiding me at all costs. I don't know why.
So you gotta go to I just gave you Pacific Rim. Okay, Burn Gorman. Here it is. Burn Gorman. That's a real name. So I'm excited. He's in it. Willem Dafoe, I believe, is in Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice he did not appear, as far as we know, in the trailer. Who knows? Yeah, Tim Burton's world is pretty wild and crazy. So who knows? Maybe he was a miniature on the little town there. I don't know. I'm guessing, this is my speculation. I'm going to say that Willem Dafoe plays somebody from the afterlife and is an antagonist. I think he's going to bring some Green Goblin energy to this film. Yeah. But so
him and Michael Keaton are going to be like fantastic.
I hope so. They better share the screen at some point. I mean, they better be scenes together. You can't have Willem Dafoe and Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice not in scenes together.
No. Yeah, you gotta have that pairing. Yeah, I agree that this trailer took me by surprise because for the longest time, hearing about that there was going to be a second one, I was like, oh no, are they going to do it justice? I'm so concerned because the original is so good, and sometimes they just don't work out well, sequels, after a long time. But dang, the teaser trailer was so good. It was so good.
Well, especially when there's a definitive ending to the first one. And I completely agree that whenever I hear things like this, oh, they're doing a sequel to Beetlejuice, or in the past, Zoolander, movies like that, I just think or Dodgeball. There's been rumblings that there's going to be a Dodgeball 2 at some point. And I'm just thinking, these types of movies, let them stand on their own. You don't need to redo Jumanji, although people I think the 2 Jumanji sequels did fairly well at the box office, fairly well with audiences and with critics. I don't know though. I couldn't really get into either of them. But that would also fall in the category for me. Like, let the movies stand by themselves. Stop trying to squeeze more water out of the sponge. The sponge is dry. There's nothing left. But having said all that, as you suggested, this actually got me excited. This trailer. I'm actually on board now.
It was just a teaser trailer, but it had just like the right amount of everything from like the first one to get me excited about the second one. I don't know if that's promising or not, because it literally just showed like some characters had the music, a rendition of the classic "Oh," which you're like, oh, like that's an iconic song.
You're back in the world. You feel like you're back in that world immediately.
So it may just be like the perfect storm of like everything from the first film to make you excited for the second one. But I'm holding out hope because, the cast is great. They got some of the OGs, which you had to have. Let's be real. Like you cannot not have Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. And then, oh my gosh, where was I going with this? You have all the cast, the music was great to set it up, the settings, the environment. I don't know. I felt like it was a really good mix of just like everything to get you excited for the second one. Just enough right now. Jeez.
Yeah, and it's very apropos that it's coming out this year, the year of the sandworm in from Arrakis. It's just the year of sandworms generally, I guess. I got to imagine sandworms are going to show up in the sequel. How could you not have sandworms? And you got to capitalize off of Dune's success. And maybe Beetlejuice will show us how you dismount a sandworm, which Dune 2, as we talked about, did not do.
True. Maybe. If anyone can do it, it would be Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Like...
Okay. Well, I don't actually. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna put a button on it in that it's still directed by the one and only Tim Burton. So.
Is he directing? No, I thought he's just producing.
Is he producing? I thought he was directing.
Let me see.
I could have misread it, to be fair. No, director. It says Tim Burton.
Oh, okay. There you go. I thought he'd handed it off. Cool. That gives me a lot more hope that he's directed it. Yeah.
I was like, I swear I saw a big thing that said director, like directed by Tim Burton.
I just remember, it's one of those things from the mind of Tim Burton on the trailer. I'm like, because that is that indicating that he's not directing it? But I'm glad to hear he is directing. Thank goodness. Anyway, let's move on to the gritty streets of Gotham. I don't know if you've seen this trailer. Did you watch the Penguin trailer?
There was a Penguin trailer?
I guess that would be not. That would be a no. This is the Penguin from the Batman, from Matt Reeves' Batman, played by Colin Farrell. Yeah. And I believe it's coming to Max. And it picks up after the movie. And it appears to depict Penguin's efforts at rising up the ranks in the criminal underworld of Gotham. Now that who was it? John Turturro, was he Falcone that got killed at the end of the first movie? Spoilers for those that haven't seen him. For those that haven't seen a movie that's now several years old. But it looked really good. It really has the tone of the movie. So if you like the movie, you were like, you're going to like the tone at least. You're going to feel like you're back in that Gotham that was set up in the movie, which I actually liked. It was a very different, gritty, kind of Seven-esque type of feel for Gotham. Very, very dark, edgy, noir. Which I thought was a good change of pace. I don't know if I want all my Batman movies that way or Batman content that way per se, but I liked that movie. I can't remember. Have you seen the Batman?
Yeah.
And did you like it? Not like it?
I watched it when it came out on HBO. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I agree with kind of what you said. It was like a different take on it, and I thought it was pretty good.
I bet we get like a post-credit scene of Batman in this show. I don't think we're gonna get any Batmans until at the very, very end.
Mm-hmm. I do like the moody. I like the moodiness of it.
The moodiness.
It's got a good vibe for sure.
Yeah, Colin Farrell's great. He looks good, and he does a great job of playing this character, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've only ever really seen the Penguin as kind of like that silly looking character from like the Tim Burton. In movie form, anyways. I think in the show Gotham he showed up, right? Didn't he show up at some point?
Who? During the Gotham show? Yeah, he was one of the main characters from the outset through most of it. Yeah, that actor hasn't really done anything since then. I don't that I can think of. Yeah, but he was in there. Yeah, he was in that. He was Patton Oswalt portrayed him in I think it was a College Humor skit. It was when one of Pete Holmes's Batman skits, and so Patton Oswalt was an Oswald Cobblepot. Yeah, I mean, he's never been one of my favorite Batman antagonists, but he's okay.
Always been a silly one. Although I will say, in the Tim Burton Penguin version, they at least had little penguins
with like little rockets on their backs,
which I was a fan of. So
they kind of really remind me of the Adam West kind of campy Batman in a Tim Burton world. 100%. And didn't they carry him off like after he died in that movie? There's a bunch of pallbearer penguins carrying him into the water, into the sewer. Spoiler alert again for a movie that's like 30 years old now.
Oh my God, that's so true. It's been so long since I've watched that, but yes.
It's such a goofy movie. And then you have Christopher Walken, who is like amping up the Christopher Walken-ness in that too.
Mayor. Wasn't he the mayor or something?
He was something like that. He was a businessman, a mayor or something, but he was a corrupt official of some kind, a corrupt businessman that, and then he and the Penguin start working together. And Selena Kyle, I think, worked for him initially. And then I think he had tried to have her killed, and that's what, and then she transformed. The cast came and saved her and turned her into Catwoman.
Oh my God, this movie's so good. Oh, it deserves a rewatch. This makes me
You're gonna rewatch it this week now? Do you own it? I don't even own it. I have the first one, I think, on DVD, but I don't think I have the second one. It's got to be available somewhere streaming these days, I would think.
Oh yeah, totally. I think I may have it though. I think I have like the Tim Burton versions, like a disc in a Tim Burton disc set or something like that.
To be honest, I'd be shocked if you didn't have it, given your Tim Burton fandom.
Tim Burton fandom and all my DVDs. I still have a bajillion hard DVDs.
Well, one thing I'm pretty sure I can say is there's not going to be a penguin in this show.
That's a little disappointing. I'm not gonna.
Now, if he has some clandestine meeting at like Gotham Zoo and they meet in the Penguin building, that's a little on the nose. But one, I don't think he's dying, and two, I don't think he's being carried off by a group of penguins. Are they flocks? Are groups of penguins called flocks? Do you know?
I would think so. Well, I don't know. Actually, they may have how a flock of crows is a murder. It may be something different like that. I don't know. We'll look and we'll see. Do they ever say? Will they explain why he's called the Penguin in the show?
I can't remember if they may have said it in the movie. I thought it had something to do because he's got like a bad leg or something. He has a limp. I don't know. And so I think he kind of like, he does not, I don't know. They use that normal 5-digit hands and he doesn't eat raw fish. Yeah. And he doesn't drool like green goo or something like Dan DeVito did.
Kind of gross. Not going to lie. The drooling thing was really, not appealing.
He ate raw fish. He lived in a sewer. What else is he going to eat down there? He was very dashing, though. He had, where he wore top hats, had a whole thing of parasols. So apparently, I just quickly Googled this, penguinsinternational.org. I bet you didn't think that existed. But according to a 2020 blog post, what do you call a group of penguins? And it says a group of penguins is called a colony or a rookery. There you go.
Cute.
The more you know. Ding. So there you go. Well, let's move on from a trailer you didn't actually see, but you should definitely watch it. It's definitely worth a watch. It's pretty quick, and again, it's very much a teaser trailer. It's not a full trailer by any stretch of the imagination. So we'll probably get more, I would imagine. But let's go from the terrestrial to the galactic, the universal, where no one can hear you scream unless you are in a theater with a great sound system, I guess. And that would be Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus, the most recent entry in the Alien franchise, coming off the successes of, what was it, Alien Covenant and Prometheus. So it's Prometheus and then Alien Covenant. I don't think anyone really cares what the order is, because I don't think most people care about those two movies, because it did not seem to do well commercially, critically, with fans. But that doesn't deter a studio from leveraging their existing IPs and franchises and trying to recapture the magic that they once held. So, Deni, does Alien Romulus recapture the magic of Alien and Aliens?
Well,
Wow. That would be a no. I guess that's a that says it all.
I mean, that is a challenge that I feel like will never be met, because Alien and Aliens were just two like sci-fi iconic films. So I don't know if they'll ever be able to capture that magic again, but I will say the trailer was at least entertaining, and it had plenty of face huggers, which I absolutely hate. So, it had that going for it.
Okay. And they seem more deadly. They actually can run and jump and outside of the eggs, apparently.
They were actually aggressors.
They were hunting down people.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the one thing for this was that it just seemed it kind of felt like hooking into the traditional sense of the films, where it's like a group of people stuck on a ship and the aliens are just slowly attacking and killing them. It seemed like it was kind of going back to that traditional storyline with Alien and Aliens. But I mean, I just don't think they'll ever be able to meet the magic that was the first two. Because I mean, you just had that iconic female lead with Sigourney Weaver, and then
Ripley.
Nowadays they just rely so heavily on CGI, which I think is their downfall. Whereas back then, those films, they look so fucking real. It was so terrifying how creepy the aliens actually were. But I mean, that's because they used real outfits and creepiness and just all that jazz. And so I don't know if they'll ever be able to recreate the magic.
I think 180 degrees on this from you, because I think they recaptured it. Now it is a minute and a half trailer. Here's the thing, though. I think this, if anything is going to recapture it, they are, especially certainly in the last several movies that they've released. This is the one, because this is the one that I think looks like the original Alien. It even has my recollection from the trailer, and I haven't watched it now in a little bit, was I think that did they have the warning klaxon going off through it too? So it even sounded like the original Alien movie and the Aliens movie. I mean, the technology looks like it's from that era. And I think this is Prometheus and Alien Covenant were guilty of the same sins other prequel stuff is guilty of. Being the technology looks way more advanced than the original movies in this case. And obviously special effects improved a lot, but that doesn't mean you have license to make it look like prequels have a lot more advanced technology than the originals. unless you can explain in universe why technology got worse in some way. And I think like Star Wars suffered from this in a lot of respects. I mean, the world of the prequels was glossy. It looked more advanced in a lot of ways than the Imperial technology that we saw in the original trilogy. And so it didn't feel, to a certain degree, like it was in that universe. It felt like just kind of a fan's riff on that property. And that's how I also felt about Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And then ultimately, in my view, Alien, especially, and to a degree, Aliens, it's as you said, it's a group of people trapped on a ship, on a planet, in a base, and they're trying to survive, and they're being picked off one by one. It's the first one's certainly a horror movie, and the second one is an action adventure horror movie with horror elements in it.
Sure.
And Prometheus and Covenant, they wanted to have some kind of philosophical discourse while they were slowly creating the xenomorphs. And it was so far out of the realm of what Alien was. And I know it's the same creator, but it's getting too far afield from what made Alien and Aliens in the first place. And so it looks like, from this little teaser, they're just dropping all of that and they're going back to basics. And with different characters, yeah. And I think it is smart. I mean, just go back to what worked. And I think part of what that does is it makes it feel like those movies. It feels like we're in that universe again. So if you like that universe, you're probably going to like this movie, even though it might not, as you suggest, live up, because how often do sequels live up? So I agree with you on that end, but at least this feels like Alien and Aliens again, which I think is a step forward for this franchise.
Yeah.
I wish others would take the same kind of step.
Yeah, I hope it is back to the basics, if you will, of why Alien and Aliens were so creepy. It's just this idea of being in space and aliens kill you.
Yeah.
So that's perfect. Let's go back to that.
Well, I also thought the original Alien, certainly, and Aliens was part of the interest in the franchise was in the fear and the horror of it was we had no idea what these things were. They didn't have a backstory. They didn't need a backstory. And that's another thing I think Prometheus and Alien Covenant tried to do is we got to give the xenomorphs a backstory. No, you don't. You don't. You're in space. You encounter out in the vastness and void of space. You didn't need to
be killer creatures that are terrifying. That's fine. That exists in the world. They don't need to have some historical religious background or something. There's no reason.
We don't need black goo, and we don't need this bad android, even though that is a trope of Aliens. There's always a bad android, it seems like, in these movies, except I guess Winona Ryder, if you saw Alien Resurrection, and you'd probably be forgiven if you didn't, because I don't think too many people saw it. My recollection, it's been a while since I've seen that one, but I think she was a good android in that one. That one went full camp and action movie, even though it was one of the things where it was, but Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley, they cloned her, but they spliced her DNA with a xenomorph.
Okay, I've seen parts of it.
And I think I can't remember.
She's like a mother figure.
Yeah, and so she can communicate with them a little bit, and they're unwilling to kill her. It was very strange. And there's mercenaries that are delivering cargo to this pseudo military unit or something. I can't remember. Like I said, I can't remember. Although one of my favorite character actors was in it as well. Oh my gosh, the guy that played Hellboy the first time, Ron Perlman. I think his name is Ron Perlman. He was in it. So I always like when he pops up in things. He was the head of my recollection. He was the head of the mercenaries. And of course, they're also, because one of the reasons Ripley is bad, is resurrected, is because it's not just a pseudo military base. It's also they're doing secret awful experiments using xenomorphs and stuff. And ultimately, something goes wrong. The xenomorphs escape, and you're off and running, and it's a rush to get off the station, as well as try to make sure the xenomorphs that they create or capture don't spread on the station. I think there might have even been a point where like the space station was going to crash onto Earth, and this was problematic for obvious reasons, in that it probably would have led to Alien vs Predator, which is actually how one of the Alien vs Predator movies started. Was a predator ship with xenomorphs crashed onto Earth in like a small Colorado town.
Talk about another bad movie.
Oh, both of those movies were not great.
So bad. So ridiculous. Okay.
And it's just completely off the rails. Like, yeah, for all the same, very similar reasons I was saying, it doesn't feel like the universe, whatever. But I'm going to bring it back now, since I went far afield here talking about Alien Resurrection. I'm not even that big a fan of the Alien franchise, but clearly it's left a mark on my psyche because I can remember all these ridiculous, pointless plot points from the crappy movies.
Okay, so will you be watching this one? Will you wait for it to come out on streaming?
I was going to say if you wanted to go see it in theaters. I figured I would have thought you would have wanted to go to the theaters to see this.
No, I gave up on the Aliens.
Oh, all right.
Movies a long time ago.
We can catch you streaming then, I guess.
I think Rob and I watched Prometheus once after it had came out on like stream or something like that a long time ago, and I remember watching like half of it and I was like, nope, gotta turn this off. It's not good.
But see, I think that's why this looks completely separate and different from that. In a good way, I think.
Then maybe we need to go to see the theaters and then we can
review it. There you go.
See,
I'll tell you what. I'll give you. We can see the second trailer, because I imagine, again, this is in line with several trailers we talked about. Very much a teaser, so I'm sure there'll be a longer trailer release at some point. But I think we should go see it and review it, and you can still say, yeah, it was as bad as Prometheus, and I will never see another Alien movie. If there's the word alien in the title, I don't care if it's a comedy, a dramedy, a rom-com, a horror movie. I'm never seeing it. The Alien franchise ruined galactic movies for me. You're not going to listen to Alien Ant Farm anymore? Even if, I don't know if you do listen to Alien Ant Farm. I can keep going here. That could be terrifying too. I have no idea.
That could be terrifying. Yeah.
I never actually saw the original Lilo Stitch. So. I did go on the Stitch ride though, that I believe wasn't that like a converted Alien-esque type ride at one point, where it was like for adults?
Encounter. And yes, it was called like Alien Encounter, and they changed it to Lilo Stitch because it was too terrifying for kids. And I remember I had ridden it back when it was the original like Alien Encounter ride, and it was freaking terrifying. And I remember being like traumatized. But then, years later, I'm like, that's the best ride ever. It was so terrifying.
And it's a Magic Kingdom of the 4 parks that put it in Magic Kingdom. I mean, it's Tomorrowland. I get it, but still.
I mean, speaking of aliens, though, I mean, the film was featured in. There was a xenomorph in the Great Movie Ride, which is now, REP Great Movie Ride, no longer there.
I do not remember that ride.
Yeah, it was in the Chinese theater, in that building where the Mickey ride is now.
Okay.
Great Movie Ride, and then it featured all of some of the great movies throughout history.
Prometheus, Alien Covenant.
They featured a little section where you go in and it's like entering aliens, and more pops out from,
oh god,
the roof. And I think it had Ripley like standing as like an animatronic. I don't know.
Oh wow,
it was fun.
Was she in the power loader? Do you remember getting ready to battle the queen?
I think so. I think it was just like her. But also, again, terrifying for a child to have like.
I would think so. Oh my god, I mean, absolutely.
And I'm like, oh my, okay.
Has Universal ever done a alien themed haunted house?
They have. Not aliens. It was Alien versus Predator.
Oh god.
So it was a combo.
On principle, I'd be against it.
But as like a haunted house, is actually very good. The monsters were like puppets, like, but like giant puppets that like came out at you, and they were great. And like the Predators, they had like the whole cast as Predators, like to be taller than like 6 something.
Oh my
In
gosh,
order to
that's
grow,
amazing.
you know, to be as big as like a Predator. It was actually, I actually thought it was really
That
good.
is really
Haunted
cool.
House. Yeah. So as a movie, Haunted House in HHN, great.
Yeah.
There's my review. Boom.
But let's go back to this idea, this theme of franchises that can't seem to get out of their own way, and that brings us, unfortunately, to Star Wars.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yep, because thankfully we have a new show coming out. Because God forbid Lucasfilm produce an actual Star Wars movie again. For whatever reason, I guess they've been told from the higher ups, you are now going to be producing Disney Plus content, so get on it. And now we have the Acolyte coming. And again, another teaser trailer. We didn't get much of a story here, other than someone's killing Jedi, and there's a bunch of people flipping around. There's a red lightsaber. There's also, Easter colored lightsabers in a forest that ignite. I think it's like blue, green, yellow, a lot of pastel colors in the forest. Lighting up the forest is they're blown away by some Sith Force user's blast or something like that. We saw Trinity. Trinity's there. She doesn't need a lightsaber. She's still got her moves from the Matrix.
Force shoves you. Yeah.
Force shoves you. She can force stop someone's dagger coming at her. So do you know anything about what's going on? Do you know anything about this show in terms of where it's at in the timeline and the universe? You didn't get any of this from the trailer. I was curious if you looked into this at all.
Yes, you did not get any of that from the trailer. So if you're like me, who has not been keeping up with any of her Star Wars lore or history,
you're not missing much.
Because I have just like lost complete interest in Star Wars lately, which is a damn shame. Is that I had no idea what was happening in this film, other trailer, other than seeing certain individuals who was like, oh, I know who those people are. But other than that, no, I have no idea what's actually happening in the trailer.
So this is the High Republic. And this was the brainchild of a group of individuals in Lucasfilm that they put together a story group to flesh out the High Republic. And it began with comics and books. So they've released several books over the last few years set in this era. Characters in this show appear in those book series. I have not read any of these books for a very simple reason. Lucasfilm doesn't seem to care about books as canon. They pick and choose what they claim that all these things are canon, but in reality, the show creators, the movie creators before them, don't seem to care, and they will break that canon constantly. And so I gave up. I gave up on the books even before they started this High Republic thing, because I was getting annoyed with thinking these books were canon and were going to enrich what I was seeing on Disney Plus, or back when the sequel trilogy was coming out. Those movies, only to find out they really were meaningless. So I gave up on the books, and I get the impression that this is going to be basically the same. Yeah, there's characters apparently that they're borrowing from the book series and the comics, but I don't think there's going to be any fidelity. If there's any fidelity to what came before, it's probably by coincidence and nothing else. But anyway, so this is the High Republic. It's the height of the Jedi. There haven't been Sith seen, encountered in, I guess, centuries, millennia. Although there's apparently controversy in the Star Wars fandom, because in the prequels, one of the Jedi say Sith haven't been seen or heard from for a millennia. This show takes place apparently 100 years before Phantom Menace. So they're going to either break canon or they're going to have some way where they can say, oh, all the people that encountered this Sith were killed and didn't tell anybody, or something, something contrived like that. But if they don't do something like that, I think it's just going to be another example of how they really don't care about canon, which certainly for me, like I need canon if you're going to have these, universes. To me, it's really important. It really enriches the world. And also, if you don't care about it, why should I care about your entire franchise if you're not going to put the effort in to actually adhere to it? So that's
not to adhere to it either. Like you're not given a really good reason of why you would deviate from the canon by just like creating different, like, just it makes no sense to me.
It just takes hard work, and it takes someone or a group of people that are actually able to pay attention to everything going on in all the different mediums. So I get it, it's hard work. But if you're going to say that we want to create books and comics and video games and movies and television shows, you are the one. It's your responsibility to figure it out. And if you don't, I'm going to be annoyed and I'm going to lose interest most of the time, which is really what's happened outside of Andor and Rogue One. And I like The Force Awakens. I like the third of The Last Jedi. I despise Rise of Skywalker. Really didn't like Book of Boba Fett. Really didn't like Obi-Wan. I didn't even try Mandalorian season 3. And for a lot of reasons. Yeah, I like the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian. But outside, did I say Ahsoka? Didn't really like Ahsoka. Nothing happened in Ahsoka. So I don't have a lot of hope for this show. And nothing from this teaser gave me any hope. I need a new hope, if you will, to get me back into Star Wars. Let's get me back into Star Wars. Because it really has become stale in a lot of ways.
But yeah, I agree. This show doesn't, there was nothing in the show that got me overly excited. Because one, even as a fan, despite the fact that I, didn't know when this was setting, I figured it was probably during that time before everything happened with the prequels, just because of the visuals and what they were showing. But
yeah, and there's more than like 2 Jedi running around.
But if I was like, even as a fan and I'm watching it, I'm like, this doesn't really get me excited because I have no idea what it's like in related to. It just looks like a trailer for like a Star Wars something happening. Like not even a lot of, detail. But then even as like a casual viewer, it doesn't get me excited because I don't recognize anything in it other than just like Jedis. And it's like, okay, I've seen that.
That's all the prequels. I'm good.
Yeah, not like a good bad guy showing. You just see a red lightsaber go flying by. Like that's it, and that's not even a great, tease for a villain. So I don't know. It overall, it's just a downer.
It just left me indifferent. I started the trailer indifferent, left the trailer indifferent. The other thing I've heard subsequent to this, there are reports that these are roughly 30-minute episodes as well, which is awful, I think.
Sure.
And that was like Ahsoka was really short. And you just when you start to build momentum in an episode, it ends. And so you're left unfulfilled. And so I don't understand why they do these half-hour episodes for shows like this. I mean, because Andor wasn't, obviously. Andor was like 45 minutes to an hour each episode. And so it's weird to me that they give Andor that runtime, but not all these other shows. So that's another reason I'm very skeptical about this being successful. I don't even know if I'm going to watch it. I might wait and see what people say about it and then determine whether or not I'm going to spend, although I guess if they're 30-minute episodes, it's not a whole lot of time to spend watching this.
How many episodes was it?
I think 8. I want to say it's 8.
Wow, that's quick. Maybe Trinity will bring you back to the Matrix.
I saw the last Matrix. It was. I don't think I've ever gone back. I think I was like folding laundry or something, and it just kept rolling. I was like, well, my controller's across the room. I guess I'll leave it on.
I watched like the first 20 minutes and I turned it off because I was like, nope.
It's bad. It's terrible on so many levels. Yeah. So I'm never going back to Matrix. I've never seen another Matrix, but I'm not going to go back. Even the second and third one, which I actually like. Even though they have the Covenant and Prometheus and Covenant issue at times where it's okay, tone down the philosophy 101 talk and stuff, but there's just great visuals and fights and stuff.
And you're like, that's actually really good.
Simpler time.
It's like
simpler
Star
time.
Wars
Movies
prequels when everyone hated them, but then now everyone's like, oh, they're so great.
We're so sorry, George. We didn't mean it. Come back.
Christian Hayden, you are Darth Vader. That I actually like still. Maybe it's because it's like the first film we saw in theaters as kids.
Yeah, we're gonna go see it again, right?
Yes,
is it May?
Hopefully May 3rd. Yeah.
Did I do it May 4th? I was gonna say it's gotta be May 4th.
It was probably May 4th. May 3rd. Where did I get that from? Anyways. But yes, May 4th in theaters. Hopefully we can go see it.
Yeah. I mean, I would do that. I would definitely go see it in theaters again. I still don't like most of it.
But after that, like the second
I hate the second one. I still hate the second one.
The second one.
Although compared to Rise of Skywalker, it's The Empire Strikes Back. And then I like what he wanted to do with 3, but I think the execution fell way short of the potential for it.
Yeah, there's pockets of
them. But so Acolyte, not event viewing, but you know what is event viewing for some people? Bridgerton season 3. Didn't get a trailer, I don't think. We've gotten a lot of promotional stuff for
promotional clips, yes.
So there was the mirror, which I found out from social media, despite not wanting to. It was, for whatever reason, I was being fed things about Bridgerton season 3. But as I understand it, there is a scene in the books involving a mirror that's very infamous, popular. I don't know what the right term would be. So
famous scene from the book, yes.
Yeah. So you're pro mirror. You're a mirror fan here.
I'm pro mirror. And they have said in a lot of their like little promo clips that they've done the vast majority of like the iconic scenes from that book that are in the show. So that's very exciting. Like there's a carriage scene.
Oh my.
Mirror scene. So I'm actually very excited, but in particular of that because season 3 is based off of Colin and Penelope's romance, if you will. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, and
which is the book title.
Book 10. And one of the episode titles as well.
They released the episode names?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Oh God, I gotta look these up.
But so it's this season is their story, and there's a lot of debate of whether like their chemistry would come on screen well because you've seen them in the first 2 seasons, and they're just friends. So a lot of people were like, would they pull off a romantic, steamy relationship? And I think the mirror promo clip that they showed, I think did a really job well done on paying off their chemistry. That we'll see. So I'm excited.
Well, yeah, it was, like a 15-second thing, and they slowly looked at each other.
But let me tell you, I was like, okay, I can see it.
All right. So according to Wikipedia, it's out of the shadows. How bright the moon, forces of nature, old friends. Oh, ain't no friend zone in this show. TikTok. They're going to be making some short dancing things, dancing skits. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. There you go. As you said, one of the episode titles. Joining of hands, perhaps in front of a mirror, as we saw. This makes it sound like it's going to have a depressing ending. The final episode is Into the Light. Did someone die in this?
Not in this one.
Oh, whoa, okay.
But in the book, spoiler alert, if you just spoiler alert, in the book, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, at the end of it is where Penelope reveals to the Ton that she is
to the what?
The Ton.
So, what the Ton?
The Ton. She announces that she is Lady Featherington, which is big scandal. So it'll be interesting to see how they translate that into the show. Yeah. So maybe that's what it's alluding to, perhaps.
Oh, she's stepping into the light as what was it? Lady Whistledown? Is that the name of the thing? The person? The persona? The nom de plume?
Whistledown, not Lady Featherington.
She is a Featherington, right?
She is a Featherington.
Is that her family?
It's her mom. Yeah, not like Lady Whistledown. My God, can't even get stuff right. Sorry, it's late, guys. It's 10 o'clock. It's past my bedtime.
Yeah, but now we got to Bridgerton, the thing you've been waiting for this whole time to talk about. Because the other thing we got as part of the promotional tour or whatever is, I guess, the passing of the love baton between Kate and Anthony. So like Antonio. I'm like, that's not Antonio. to Paulin, which I guess is that something they do they've done the first two, the first from season 1 to season 2. They did that too.
Yes.
With the paladin from Dungeons and Dragons, the underrated Dungeons and Dragons, and the woman.
Yeah, every Bridgerton book is like a different one of the different, oh my god. See, it is late, guys.
Bridgerton people.
Yeah, Bridgerton, yes. It's Bridgerton children. Sorry, yes. It's like based off of each of the children, and it goes into like, you know, how they found their significance.
So who do you think is going to be season 4, assuming there's a season 4?
I would hope it would be Benedict's story, which is technically who's supposed to be next.
Oh, you got shafted.
It went Daphne, Anthony, and then Benedict. But they're changing it up and they're going Daphne, Anthony, Colin. And so a lot of people are thinking maybe they're going to set up a lot of Benedict's story.
Intrigue.
He would be next because Benedict's story is a little out there. It's very different from the others. Let's put it that way.
Does it happen in the Ton, or is it abroad?
It's kind of abroad. And then it comes into the Ton. Why a lot of people are like, maybe they decided to do that. But then they're also alluding that they're changing. It also seems like they're changing up Eloise, who's one of the who came out in the season on the Marriage Mart this past season. So, but her story it feels drastically different from the books. So,
all right,
people are theorizing that they're just changing things up to make it more sense for the screen versus the books because it's just different.
And it keeps some surprises in store for the book readers. Yeah.
And they're doing a fantastic job. Like the changes that they do make and the stuff that they do like leave out like makes sense. And so it works, which is nice. So
one change I don't think you like or will like is that this is divided into 2 parts.
Netflix thing. I hate the 2-parter thing that Netflix make them say.
May 16th and June 13th. It's almost a month apart. You've waited this long, and now they're going to make you wait a little bit longer for the second half. You see the culmination of the romance.
That's the worst. Well, they already delayed it, and it's like, now you're going to split it in 2? Like, come on.
Well, speaking of family dramas, the last trailers to talk about, Deni, are you team green or are you team black?
Even though I know how it ends, I'm still team black. Spoiler.
Justify your decision.
Okay, number 1, the better looking people. Okay.
Are you referring to the 11th Doctor? Primarily?
Of course, Matt Smith. I will forever be Matt Smith stan. I just have a strong feeling that they deserve the throne. Rhaenyra deserves the throne and not Alice. Oh my god, Alicent and her children, they are just annoying AF. And I just want them to get smoked by a dragonfire.
Wow. Well, Rhaenys had an opportunity to smoke them all with dragonfire, and I still don't really understand that whole scene, but flew away.
She should have, but she did not. So that would have saved a lot of trouble. Would have saved a whole war. But yeah, semantics.
So between the 2, though, trailers, did you think that trailer was better than the other one, or did you think they were both equally good? Did you like green more than the black trailer? Or the posters? Because I know they also released like a slew of character posters from each side, too.
The posters were cool. I don't know if you noticed, but they're all like angled to be like looking at the other side, which is kind of cool. And I was like, oh, that's pretty genius. Yeah, the whole marketing behind it is just like, wow, that was so good. Like whoever thought of that, brilliant. Because even though it's 2 trailers, I felt like they still showed an equal amount of like the same content, if that makes sense. Like they didn't overly reveal in the black versus like over revealing in the green. It felt like very matching in the same kind of amount of content of what you're seeing. But I thought it was brilliant, especially as someone who, even if you didn't see the first season, you'd watch that and be like, "What the hell is going on? This is, like, crazy. Oh my god, I love it." Like, it intriguing, you know? It told just enough that there's, like, a big battle, like, a big war going on, families are fighting, tiffs are rifting, and there's dragons burning everybody alive.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things I really liked is, like, it doesn't look like they were trying to hide dragons or come up with some weird way that, "Oh, we can't dragons cost a lot of money to show on screen. We gotta hide them somehow." They're in a lot of these trailers doing
Which is
things.
good because
Yeah.
that's basically what this war is known for, is that the Targaryens just, like, destroy, this is
Well, this is the Dance of Dragons, right? The Civil War? In universe, it's called that, right?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they just, they're just burning up everything and destroying everything. And so, like, it just shows, like, how far the Targaryens go with their dragons and how, you know, how powerful dragons are and probably shouldn't have been trifled with by man. I think that was said in the first season by Viserys. Viserys?
Yeah. Yeah. No Paddy Considine in this season, though, unfortunately.
Inside is fantastic. But it still looked amazing. And I will say the one thing that I did enjoy about, the Team Black trailer was fantastic because like, but that's just like enough said. But the one thing I will say that I enjoyed about the Team Green trailer is that you got to see Aegon actually seem like a king a little bit in the trailer versus like this wimpy kind of just complaining spoiled brat.
Yeah, he wasn't hiding from his family.
which in the book Fire and Blood, he actually turns out to be a pretty like vicious king. So I kind of liked seeing a little snippet of that in the trailer and be like, oh, he's actually like manning up a little bit.
Just don't be like Joffrey 2.0. Like have a little different. Hopefully, he has a little different personality, or at least a way to differentiate him from Joffrey.
Yeah. I think he will. He's definitely psychotic, but he's not like. I feel like he's not like the Joffrey annoying psychotic, if that makes sense. Because Joffrey was just like annoying prick. Like,
Well,
he
kind of
in my mind.
Yeah, it kind of seems like he wants to rule, at least he wants to like shore up his rule. Like, even though Joffrey wasn't. Well, I guess Joffrey actually, I take it back, completely take it back. Joffrey was confronted with a rebellion of sorts. But yeah, I don't really have a side in this thing. I like characters on each side. Like I love Otto Hightower. I think I love the actor.
His character is very interesting, just from like a manipulation standpoint. It's very like you're like very manipulative, politically driven and stuff. Oh, it's fascinating.
But he doesn't like come across as if he's manipulating people.
So good at it that he like, yeah.
Whereas you felt like the spider. Oh gosh, the character's name's is escaping me. But him and Littlefinger. Those characters, they were obviously manipulating people when they talked to them. they oozed Varys, yeah. They like oozed cunning and guile and menace and stuff. Whereas Otto Hightower, he almost just looks like a tired bureaucrat, as if he's just telling the king what he has to do, but under it all, it's obviously he's manipulating everything to get his family tied to the throne. Which I also like because my recollection from the first season, he's also the second son. So he didn't stand to inherit anything from his family. But he had to make his own way in the world, and he found his way up to the upper reaches of the Seven Kingdoms. So I really think he's an interesting character. I just feel bad for Alicent. Everyone's scheming around her, and she suffers all the consequences from the scheme.
She's like, damn it, why me?
Yeah. And she's clearly going to go through it this season because there are a bunch of shots of her in black and funeral garb, looking morose and sad. And so clearly she's going to go through it again this season. So things are not going to turn out well for her family and for her in particular, in ways I think we've talked about in other previous episodes, at least assuming they follow the books, which looks like they are. But outside of that, I don't really care about anybody. I think about it. I do like guys Aemond, the eye patch. Yeah, I like him. He's not, another second son who he clearly feels like he should be ruling. but because of his birth, he can't. And he was teased mercilessly by all of his cousins. And so he grew up resentful and angry, and now he's taking it out on everybody. And yeah, and we know where it's leading. They're clearly leading up to the event in the book, which I don't know if they'll have in this season. I kind of hope not, because I feel like that's something that needs to come near the end of this whole story. I can't remember if it does. Does it come near the end of the Civil War in the books too, or is it kind of in the middle? Do you remember?
I gotta remember. Oh, it's been a while since I read it. I want to say it kind of comes near the end, if I'm not mistaken.
I would hope so. I mean, it makes sense to have that kind of be almost like a culminating event. Like the winner of this is going to suffer significantly in terms of their power.
Yeah.
And
well, I always got
the fighting prowess and stuff, capabilities.
That I always got the sense that Matt Smith's character,
Damon,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Damon in the book, it always, because they insinuate that he basically had an affair outside of Rhaenyra, like, and was meeting with some other chicks on the side, and kind of got the sense that like near the end of the war or so, he was kind of like over it, like ready to leave the war again. Like, why am I fighting this battle still? And that's why, spoiler, that when he does fight Aemon, like his body disappears, but it's never found.
And I think we actually talked about this in a prior episode, that they're clearly going to do that, and they're going to use it to send him off into his own spinoff.
I hope so. I would love more Matt Smith on my screen. I think
a dragonless Damon with, like, he dyes his hair brown or something, and wears glasses so no one knows who he is. He goes and lives the life of like a sellsword or something. I don't know.
Hey, I'd watch that.
So those are the two I think are interesting on the green side of the war. Everyone else, I don't care about him too much. I do like, and then I like Rhaenyra. Damon's interesting, mainly because it's Matt Smith. I think he just does a really good job of portraying that character. And I like Rhaenyra too, because it seemed like she was willing for a little while to basically allow Aegon to rule, to keep the peace in the realm, until obviously Aemon killed her son, and then it was on. So I think she's really interesting as a character. And it'll be interesting to see how she prosecutes this civil war. So for me, it's more like, I just think there are individual characters that I find interesting as opposed to a side. And also just because I don't really have a dog in the fight. And and it's also like part of the prequel issues too. One of the things is like, we know where this ultimately ends up. So I guess I'm just going to enjoy the ride, and it doesn't really matter to me how it ends per se.
Exactly.
I don't know.
we know the outcome of what happens. So it's more so just like they just do a phenomenal job of bringing it to life on the screen. So let's just enjoy it and enjoy every moment. And hopefully they continue to get it right this season.
Yeah. I do love, and this is where it started out in the last episode of the first season, expanding the world outside of the Targaryen family drama. And we're going to the Wall this season. So we're getting the Starks. So I'm very excited about that. I hope we see the Baratheons again. I think that would be cool to see the Baratheons again. So I'm hoping that it's more than just the Starks. And that's all we get. I'm hoping there is an opening up of the world again now, that presumably this should affect the entire Seven Kingdoms. So we should hear from other houses and what they're going to do.
Yeah, because that's part, the big part about getting the allegiances, all the different, you see that a little bit in the last, near the end of the first season, where they try to get the houses to, you swore loyalty to me. It's like, I don't care. Basically.
What do you bring nothing but a piece of paper telling me of my obligations. Get out.
Yep. Not good enough. So yeah, it'll be cool to see that kind of stuff. You get that political side of it again, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so it looks great. They look like they're just picking up right where they left off, and this, as John Hammond would say, they spared no expense. it would seem, which makes me very, very, very excited. So, any other things you saw recently?
A lot of good stuff announced, and it like continued. Even like they announced on Friday, I want to say, the third book in the Fourth Wing series. Speaking of books of what we're reading, that's what I'm reading right now. Iron Flame.
Oh, okay. Well,
Second.
you good transition. Let's just transition to it. So, you're reading, what is it? The second book and so what is this? Is the Fourth Wing series? Is it a trilogy? What's it supposed to be? Do you know? Has she said what it's supposed to be?
I think it's the series. I don't think it's a trilogy.
Ah.
Let me look it up really quick. I don't follow it that much, but I'm on the second book, so I was like, "Ooh, that's exciting!" When I saw the
Is the second book so far as good as the first? You think? Is it living up to the expectations created by the first one?
The second book, I am actually enjoyed, and it didn't get as much hype as the first book. The second one that I like about it is it really kind of it expands what is happening from well, not only from a character standpoint, but just kind of the main overall plot of it. Let's put it that way.
All right.
Vedin and Var and the school itself, and it kind of has like this political underlining. But I think a lot of people didn't really hook into it as much as the first one.
Is this a young adult series? Isn't there like a love triangle or something in this?
If it's considered young adult or not.
Oh, romantasy. Yes.
Got some romantasy vibes to it for sure. But I still enjoy it. I think it's still good.
All
And
right.
I personally like the second book a lot. Because it gets
Oh.
more into it, which is cool.
So clearly you're going to be picking up the third book next January.
Yeah, I'll read the third book for shows. And it looks like it's more than a trilogy because it looks like there's a fourth book that's untitled at the moment. But
Oh, okay.
so
Cool.
yeah, so that's what I'm currently reading, and I'm enjoying it.
I finally made it back into the Wheel of Time. I am about 100 pages now into Fires of Heaven. I actually really like the first part of this, at least the first 100 pages. But I think you had said that you thought it started a little slow for you. But I'm loving it because it's I've so much of this I had forgotten. It's been so long since I've read this. And so like revisiting then like in the prologue, part of the prologue, spoilers, for a book that's 20 some odd years old now, 30 years old, was a meeting among the Forsaken, talking about what they're going to do, some of the Forsaken, and which I loved. Seeing what's going on in Ruidian with Rand following the end of the Shadow Rising, and so it's always amazing. It's always like this warm feeling whenever I open up for one of these for a reread. Like I'm back in the Wheel of Time, and I just love it. I just like, even when it's just because I agree that there are some chapters that are pretty slow and some sections that are pretty slow in chapters, as we all know. When Robert Jordan started describing the thread on the rug in some anteroom or something, the wall sconces holding the torches or whatever. But I just feel like I'm back in a place that I would say it feels like home, but yeah, satisfies the nostalgia I didn't realize I was feeling for this world. And so I'm already really enjoying it, despite the tiny text and the number of pages. It's also interesting to go back and reread these now too, knowing what's going to happen. Because I mean, I remember like big moments from each of these novels, and now I can pick out like all the foreshadowing that clearly I know when I first read these I completely overlooked. And so, for example, spoilers again here. Obviously, what happens to Moraine at the end of Fires of Heaven.
That's kind of a big moment.
But there's a moment because she's loading up at this point. She's loading up all of the peddlers' wagons with all the Terangriel and Angriel stuff from Meridian. And there's I can't remember if I think it's Matt watching her do this. No, it's Rand watching her do this, I believe, from a window. And he thinks to himself how carefully she's directing the red door frame to be loaded onto the wagon. And I'm like, oh my God, this is because she knows it has to be in a certain spot for her to go through it with Lanfear. So small things like that completely over my head the first time I read this, but now knowing what's going to happen at the end of this book, I'm like, it really enriches the reread. I'm like, oh my God, okay, he was setting this up. I mean, not that I didn't think he would be, but now I actually can see what he was doing ahead of time. So that's one of the really fun things about going back through these books as you read through them. And on the horizon, we have one of the best in the series, Lord of Chaos.
Thank God. It's not the slog yet.
No, you're not in the slog yet.
I was telling one of my friends that I was like, oh, I'm also in the middle of, reading the Wheel of Time series. And we were talking about like how many there are of them in the series and then like how big they get. And then I was telling her about like, oh, my brother told me there's like a section of them that's literally called the slog. and she's like, you're not selling me on this series.
Well,
I promise.
It's so funny. There's so many fans of Wheel of Time and commentators that have lampooned their parodied there, talked about that, how funny it is how fans will oftentimes tell non-readers and trying to get them to read, it's so great, except for this part in the middle, which is called the slog in the fandom. But outside of that, it's wonderful. But you
just have to get through that.
It's so far into the series, by the time you get to it, you just feel compelled to muddle through because I've read this far. I'm getting to the end of this series, so I know what happens.
It will finish. We'll finish this.
And who knows? You might actually like it. I mean, there are people that don't think it's a slog and that it's slow.
There's people.
So you might like it.
I mean, there's people who really did not like Iron Flame because it kind of goes very into detail, leading up to like what's next. And I was like, no, I'm actually kind of enjoying it.
Yeah. So who knows?
So I was like, I don't know. Maybe I will.
I can tell you though, Lord of Chaos is not considered part of the slog. In fact, there's something that the ending of Lord of Chaos is something that many people in the fandom, if the Amazon TV show is not able to finish the show, a lot of fans hope they at least get to the end of Lord of Chaos, are able to adapt Lord of Chaos because of what happens at the end of that. Yeah. So there you go. Little tease for when you get to this at the end of the year and you're trying to finish up your Goodreads reading goals for the year. And it's December 30th midnight. You're like, what? 24 hours. I got to get through 400 pages of Lord of Chaos to hit my goal. Why did I leave this to the very end?
That would happen too.
All right. Enough Wheel of Time talk. We got plenty of future podcast episodes and videos to talk Wheel of Time.
True.
So, before we wrap up, Deni, got a bookstore to shout out for us?
Yes, I'm gonna do an all-time favorite bookstore, which would be the Strand Bookstore in New York City. Pretty iconic at this point. A lot of people have probably already heard of Strand Bookstore because it's so iconic. But it's a huge bookstore in New York City. We go to it every single time we visit. And I forget how many miles of books they claim to have. But
I just looked. I think it's 18 on their little logo. I think it says 18 miles of books, if I can discern this correctly.
On a corner in New York City, and it's phenomenal. Got used books, news books, all the books, just like anything.
Old rare vintage books.
It's basically like a New York City legacy, I feel like, at this point. So
good tote bags.
Great tote bags. They're kind of also known for their tote bags. But if you go to New York City, you need to swing by the Strand Bookstore because it's phenomenal. The times
we're lucky enough to visit, we always stop there at some point during the trip.
And it's so big nowadays that they have like Strand carts that are actually like around Central Park. I think they have like 2 of them around Central Park, and then they've also opened a second like little secondary store somewhere. I'm trying to remember where. And there's another little secondary store that they opened. But yeah. So Strand Bookstore, hit it up when you're in the Big Apple.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Deni, this was fun, and clearly this is not going to be the last time we talk about at least several of these, as we're eagerly anticipating all of them, with I guess the exception of the Acolyte, and maybe for you, Alien Romulus. But who knows? Maybe we'll be surprised, because it's always a possibility, and it would be a pleasant surprise to be back into Star Wars, and I guess to a lesser extent Aliens. We'll see, but we'll leave that for a future episode. And Deni, for those listeners that want to hear our thoughts on other topics, books, TVs, movies, video games, where might they find our content?
You can find us on the YouTube at the Pop Docs. All of our good content is up there. And then you can also check us out on Twitter, X Twitter, at the Pop Docs. And then we're also over on Instagram at the Pop Docs Pop.
And with that, the Pop Docs Clinic for this episode is officially closed.
Toodles!